Greetings, friends. It's Cryptodamus back again on YouTube. It's been a long time since I've made a video for YouTube, and I've been thinking about it, and there's a lot going on astrologically right now. A lot of people, even non-astrological people, have been asking me what the fuck is going on. So I thought it would be a good time to do a little video and talk about some of these things. As some of you guys might know, Venus and Mercury are both retrograde right now. It's an overlapping Venus and Mercury retrograde period, which is pretty tough. As we know, Mercury retrograde periods, they tend to be kind of challenging, especially for technology, travel, communication, email, phones. Emails can get lost, phones stop working, vital information sort of flow breaks down, and we can have interpersonal conflicts and communication breakdowns. But add on top of that, Venus is retrograde. Venus rules love relationships, also money and the financial markets, which have been hit hard on this Venus retrograde period. So this double Mercury Venus retrograde period it's pretty challenging, and it makes it really hard to analyze the markets, especially. You tend to get a lot more sort of fake out moves and fake technical signals, and it's a lot harder to really assess what's going on. So that goes until April. Mercury goes direct on April 7th, and Venus goes direct on April 12th. So until we hit that period, we've still got this overlapping retrograde, and it's really hard to launch anything big or take big, bold, new actions, start a new business, start a new job, launch a big new project. I've been telling all my clients and students to wait, to be patient. Now is a good time for laying the groundwork, doing the research, getting everything set up for the big launch after April 12th, after April 8th, especially after April 12th. So that's just one thing that's been going on. Uh, excuse me. That's one thing that we've got going on astrologically. We just also got out of the eclipse period. I'm not really going to go into that. But what I do want to talk about is Neptune going into Aries. This is a huge, huge astrological reset. First of all, Neptune only changes signs about once every 15 years or so. So just the fact that Neptune is changing signs is kind of a big deal. But this isn't any sign change. This is Neptune changing from the last sign in the zodiac, Pisces, to the first sign in the zodiac, Aries. And that only happens once every 165 years. So that's a really big deal. The last previous Neptune Aries ingresses were 1861, 1697, 1533, and 1370. So let's talk about that for a second. Obviously, 1861 really stands out because this was the beginning of the American Civil War. And Neptune's Aries ingress happened, I think, within literally 48 hours of the American Civil War starting. So this is a pretty serious historical correlation. I think many people in the United States can relate to this, simply because possibly, with the polarization of politics in the United States, the breakdown of some of our political institutions. This might be, I don't think we've been more divided than at any time since the American Civil War. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have another Civil War again. It doesn't always repeat exactly like that. But I think we can see in the extreme polarization of the political politics in the United States, especially with Trump being an extremely polarizing figure. People either love him or hate him. So we are seeing this kind of division, and that we saw, maybe during the Civil War. We're seeing the same type of political divisions that we maybe saw during that period of time. Now, another interesting correlation. So the time before that, as I said, was I think it was, what did I say? It was so 1861. I think it was 1697. And that one doesn't quite stand out in history. There was an end to the 9 Years' War at that time. There was a treaty signed that ended fighting between an alliance of European powers against French imperialism. I mean, and also there was a tour of Peter the Great through Europe trying to make closer ties with with Western Europe. However, if we go back to 1533, Neptune's Aries ingress, this was a huge, huge historical year for Europe because King Henry VIII got divorced and ended up marrying Anne Boleyn and uh, had a break with the Catholic Church in Rome, had a battle with Pope Clement VII, and became the head of the Church of England and split off from the Catholic Church. So this was a really big deal because nobody had ever really done that before, and this was part of the rise of the Protestant Reformation and people wanting more personal freedom to make personal choices about marriage and divorce and who they wanted to be with. So this was a huge, epic, story in European history. It was really for the first time called into question the political power of the Pope in Rome, over other kings and monarchs of that region. Before then, his power had been pretty much unquestioned. I mean, obviously Luther and the Reformation were starting to question that, and this was part of that historical trend. You could also say that Neptune and Aries correlated, not just to the Civil War, but the abolition of slavery, which was also about higher consciousness that people having personal freedom and the abolition of this ignorant and abhorrent tradition of slavery in the United States. So we can see that not only does Neptune's Aries ingress bring huge historical events that change the course of history, it also has a narrative arc for more personal freedom. Okay. Questioning of authority. In the case of the Civil War, it was a schism between the Confederacy, who was refusing to accept the historical narrative of the abolition of slavery. That's the time for slavery had come to an end. In the case of King Henry VIII, there was also a schism. Okay. And in this case, King Henry was on the right side of history and wanting more personal freedom around marriage and divorce. So we can see some of these themes of Neptune and Aries for schisms, wars, battles, and an overarching theme of wanting more personal freedom and liberation. Uh, Also, 1370 was a difficult period for Europe. It was coming out of the plague. It was actually a plague year. It wasn't the main. Already, I think a third of Europe had died from the plague within the past 20 years. But 1370 was a plague year. And there was also the Hundred Years' War was going on at that time. So there were some complex issues around that one. But the ones that really stand out are 1861 and 1533. And this year we have, Donald Trump remaking the global order, sort of changing up traditional alliances. He's angered America's traditional allies of Canada and Europe. And also he's threatening a massive global trade war, changing up globalization and global economics and global trade policy. So this is probably a historical events. The events that take place now during this time have a much greater weight of history. We can all feel that Donald Trump and some of his associates like Elon Musk working together are changing the global order for the better or for the worse, depending on what side of this you politically see it. But the fact is that we are entering a new era with Neptune going into that first sign of Aries. And at that 0 degree point, the zero Aries, we are entering a new era. Events that are taking place right now carry the weight of massive historical change that could change history forever. So this is a powerful time, and a lot of people are feeling disoriented and wondering what's going on. Now, we don't know the full implications of this because Neptune is going to crisscross back into Pisces and it won't go into Aries again for good until January of 2026. So this whole period of now, March 30th, where it made the first ingress, all the way until January of next year, is the transition of Neptune into Aries. And of course, as you guys know, Uranus is going to go into Gemini, Saturn is also going to go into Aries, and Pluto is in Aquarius. And we're not going to talk about all that. The other thing I wanted to mention was that we do have an interesting, we do have a nice favorable alignment that's coming into play at the end of this week that I want to talk about. Uh, and you can see here we've got a really interesting, nice five planet alignment with the Moon and Mars, Uranus, and Venus and Saturn all coming into an alignment here around 24 and 25 degrees. So Mars and the Moon for that day are going to trine Venus and Saturn. And then Uranus is going to sextile Mars and the Moon and Venus and Saturn. This is called a minor grand trine, and it's generally considered to be quite favorable. So I think this could be a favorable period, and it's going to last for a few days. It's not just a one-day event. It's going to take, I would say, from about April. It's already starting to come into effect. It's going to hit really hard on Friday and go all the way into Monday. So, it's going to be in effect for about 4 or 5 days. And this is, I think, a really positive alignment. Minor grand trines um, tend to be favorable, the sextiles and the trines. And with Uranus is kind of at the apex of that alignment, what we call the apex of the minor grand trine, because it's in the double sextile position. We can have really exciting personal breakthroughs. Uh, it could be a little chaotic. I mean, that's for sure. Venus and Mercury are still retrograde. It's not necessarily going to be like easy, but this is a really interesting, nice alignment. I mean, Mars is sextile Uranus. That has a very dynamic, courageous, confident quality with sudden bursts of energy. The Venus Saturn is also going to sextile Uranus, and it's all sort of built around this sextile between Uranus and Saturn, which is often quite favorable as well. And it represents a balance between the forces of the past and the future, between tradition and innovation, between freedom and responsibility. So I think this is a really nice alignment. And of course, Venus and Mars, Mars trining Venus and Saturn also has a nice favorable quality to it. So, this could be something favorable to look forward to, something positive to look forward to while we're still going through this Venus Mercury double retro, while we're adjusting to the new energy of you can see, Mercury right here, Neptune right here at zero Aries. So there's a lot going on, but I'm looking forward to this favorable alignment. I think this could be favorable for the global financial markets, which have been really hammered under this Venus retrograde period. But this period, Thursday, Friday, going into Monday of next week, perhaps we see a relief rally on this favorable alignment. So that's what I got for you guys today. Also, I want to let you know I'm doing a public financial astrology seminar on April 19th at 10 a.m. I'm going to be joined by a guest astrologer, Marsilio Musing, who I work with in our Twitter Spaces event, and he's going to make a presentation on the markets as well. And we're going to go over stocks and cryptocurrencies for quarter two. I'm going to put that link in. I'm going to put that link, in the description of this video. And thanks again for joining us today. Thanks for joining me on my YouTube channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Hopefully, I'm going to try to do more YouTube videos here in 2025. Thank you, and everybody, I hope you enjoy this epic shift into Neptune and Aries. We'll see you next time.